By way of introduction, for those who may have never participated in Soul of the Siddur, the goal of Soul of the Siddur, which I started a couple of years ago, 2, maybe 3 years ago, there's a very, large archive, I guess, online at ortorah.org. It's also, I have it on like another site just to be able to store it, of parts of the Siddur. And the Siddur is our instrument to be able to express words that sometimes we may find difficult to express. We reach for the Siddur at all times of our lives, happy times, sad times, and even and especially challenging times. A Jew who davens is a Jew who recognizes vulnerability, their vulnerability, and hence their dependency completely and utterly on a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And we need to know that. And of course, all of us now have a renewed sense of that, a sense of vulnerability, of uncertainty. And I hope that the shir this morning, which I'm dedicating as a refuah shlema for all those who have the coronavirus and who are struggling with it, particularly those within our own community who have it and don't know, have it and do know, whatever it might be. And this Tehilim Kuf Mem Bet is what we're saying each night as the 7 o'clock Tehilim this week. And next week, of course, the time of Mincha will change. So let's open together Tehilim Kuf Mem Bet and try to learn it line by line. And I hope to elucidate some of the depth of it. Obviously, anyone can read a translation. I'm trying to show you some of the pathways within Chazal, but trying to understand some of it. First of all, Maskil David is a title. And the Biotov Hamarat Tefila tells you that where he was when he spoke this prayer. It doesn't necessarily mean that David HaMelech was literally in a, it could be, but it doesn't have to mean that he was literally inside a cave with a pen and a paper and he was jotting this down as it came to him. It very well could be that he had Ruach HaKodesh, he spoke it in the cave, and later on he composed it when he had time to write it down in a more organized manner. But the point is that it reflects a certain sense, first of all, of being in a cave, of being isolated, of being alone. And as I'll show you soon, this represents the bookends of this tefillah. David HaMelech had his own reason why he was in a cave. We have our own reason why we have had to withdraw, and for many of us to essentially seclude ourselves. In Israel, they call it bidud milashon liot levad, to be alone. That's what isolation means. And we're calling it by other names, social distancing, etc. But the very beginning of this is to say we're in the cave with David, and David's in the cave with us, and he himself was in a cave for his reasons, and we have ours. So actually, let me show you the bookends, and then we'll work into the inside of the tefillah. David was in a cave. Look at the end of the last line of this chapter, and this happens sometimes in Tehilim. People don't realize it. It's not always written in a linear fashion. It's like the start and the end are two bookends, and everything's in the middle. The last pasuk is Hotzia mi masger nafsi lehodot et shemecha v'yachtiru tzadikim ki tigmol alai. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may give thanks to your name. The tzadikim will crown themselves in me, for you have dealt bountifully with me. Our sages of blessed memory, Chachamenu Zichronam Livracha, and Breshit Rabbah, explain that this, which was written at the end of this prayer by David HaMelech, was not the first time that sentence was spoken in world history. Who was the first person? The first person, says the Medrash, was Noach. Vayidaber Elokim el Noach lemor tzei min hateva. Hashem said to Noach in Sefer Breshit, go out of the ark. Noach spent almost a year, actually a year really, inside a teva. That teva was cramped. That teva was uncomfortable. That teva had, never mind the uncertainty of watching media, he had no access to the outside world. He was simply bobbing on the waves. And that's all there were. Waves and waves. And to hear the braying of the animals and their cries and screams, and he, together with his family members, in total numbering 8 human beings, were in charge of holding up what was left of the world. There is no greater constriction than that universal constriction of Noach, Tzaddik, Tamim Haya Bedorotav. This is Noach, and therefore the Medrash describes that the pasuk, this pasuk, the last pasuk in Kuf Membet, was spoken by Noach ish tzadik. Hotzia mi masger nafshi ze Noach. Shaya sagur bateva yud bet chodesh. 12 months was he shut up, sealed, inside the teva. Lohodot et shemecha, give thanks to your name. Le'atet hodaya lishmecha. V'yachtiru tzadikim, yitkalun bi tzadikaya. May included within me, may heralding from me, Noach HaTzadik said to Hashem, may there be many tzadikim. May they crown themselves through me, means they'll be my descendants. Ki tigmol alai, for you have dealt kindly with me, shikamalta alai v'amartali, seimin hateva. You have done me an unbelievable kindness. And you've told me, go out of the teva, go out of the ark. Each of us is now, not just as Jews, but on a human level, in our own ark. It's the most challenging time. Realize that this tefillah, Kuf Mem Bet, was made for us, for our moment. Many such tefillot. But this one I find particular resonance in because the bookends are both the national and the universal. And it's both about individuals who cried out to Hashem from a feeling of seclusion, of isolation, and of not really knowing what the future brings in any way, shape, or form, being cut off from the rest of the world. Let's go back now to the beginning of the Tefillah, the Kuf Mem Bet, and let's analyze it a little bit more. And now we'll proceed through it to see some of the lines inside of it. Let me pause here. If anyone has any comments or questions, let me pause here for a moment, and then I'll continue if there aren't any. You can also raise your hand on your screen. You should have something on the bottom of your screen that says raise my hand. You click it, and then I'll know to acknowledge you. Okay, let's continue. What does the word Maskil David mean? Whatever the pshat meaning is of Maskil David, the Alshich, a Maskil might be a conductor, something like that. There are different ideas, but the Alshich understood the words Maskil David in another way. When David was in a period, I'm translating loosely from Rabbi Moshe Alshich, a person is remorseful and is feeling that they have the fear of death. Me'emat mavet. Hinei mitzta'eru ma gam me'emat mavet. Kedavid b'ma'ara. The fear of death, the trepidation, the terror, being alone. Lo yuchal hitpalel mirov tirda. This individual is not even able, to daven because they are so much distracted. Last night in the Gemara, we talked about another kind of tirda the mitzvah. I'm distracted because of mitzvahs. This is the tirda that disables a person, God forbid, paralyzes them. They simply can't open their mouth. Amar. However, the person will say, Ki machmat hayot toar maskil David. However, the fact is that this chapter of Tehilim begins with maskil David. Shahaya David l'chod rachav maskil. The word maskil, says the Alshich, quoting a pasuk from Shmuel Aleph, which describes David HaMelech's character. David l'chod rachav was a maskil, means David in all of his ways was successful. Successful at what? Successful at being able to daven even under the most trying of circumstances. Nimshach heyot lo b'me'arat tefila. That he was able to be in the cave, and yet he was able to draw out prayer. Ki haya nachon libo v'lo nivhal b'tsa'aro. For his heart was proper, means it was set, fixed, and directed, and he was not in a state of turmoil over his pain. Did he have pain? He had pain. Did he suffer? Absolutely. But it did not prevent him from being able to open his lips and pour forth his tefillah, his supplication to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because he knew that God was listening. He knew that even in the darkest cave, even in the teva, Hashem would hear him. And we know that Hashem will hear us. And this is the idea, says the Alshich, about why it started Maskil LeDavid. Another idea. He points out that there's a story about a famous Tana whose name was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Very briefly, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa had a specialty. Just like Lahavdal Fe'avdalat, you have a doctor who's has a specialty. You have general practitioners and specialists. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was known, well regarded as a specialist in one thing, tefillah. It's not that he wasn't a great Talmid Chacham. It's that even the greatest Talmid Chachamim would go to him for their tefillot to be recited, because the tefillah of a Chacham, of a great tzaddik, we maintain, as a matter of tradition from the very beginning, carries with it even greater force and power than that of a regular person. That's why people are always asking tzaddikim, can you daven for so-and-so? That's why it matters. And so, says the Al-Sheikh, just as Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa had a sentence he would often say, which probably does not pertain to most of us, but it did pertain to him. He was on that kind of high spiritual level. The Gemara in Brachot says that he would say to people that I know that my prayer was successful after he would daven, or he would not say anything. If he said I knew my prayer was successful, he'd say, how do you know your tefillah was successful? He would say to them, Im shgura tefilati b'fi, yodea ani shehu mekubal. This is in the Gemara in Brachot on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Bet. If the prayer comes out of my mouth in an organized manner, if it just sort of flows from me and it's organized and I don't stumble when I speak, that is a sign that my prayer has been accepted. And therefore, maskil means matzliach. And David was matzliach. And the idea here that he's in a cave and that he's able to open his mouth to daven, the very fact that he can daven, the fact that he has the strength and the courage to be able to daven to Hashem, even though the sword of his enemy was coming in to find him, that's what it means, bioto b'amarat tefillah. So in other words, maskil David, an act of success by David, who was always successful because Hashem was with him. The chol drachav maskil, as the pasuk says in Shmuel Aleph, maskil David. Why? How did he know? Because bioto v'amara, even when he was in the most isolated and terrible place, tefillah, he was still able to daven. Psukim Bet and Gimel, of course, go together. Koli al Hashem ezak, koli al Hashem et chanan. And in English, I'll call out my voice. I will raise, scream essentially, or moan to Hashem. My voice to Hashem will I supplicate, will I petition. Eshpoch lefanav sichi, tzarati lefanav agid. I will actually pour out my conversation before him. But this conversation is not just any conversation. It's a conversation of intimates. It's of people who know each other. That's a siach, a sicha. So he's pouring out his siach before Hashem, but also is speaking out just to be able, the ability to express, to verbalize one's pain and suffering. And that's, he says, what I will do. That's tzarati lefanav agid. That can't happen, I would submit, until a person has poured out their speech before Hashem. Poured out like liquid. Poured out like a rushing stream. Not in the way of just mentioning words and rattling them off, but in the way that it is actually flowing from the depths of one's soul. And this is a perfect time for us to be trying to learn more about these tefillot that we have. So I'll continue. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah and Daf Zayin is a parallel Gemara also to this effect in the Gemara in Brachot, has the following discussion and debate back and forth about the significance of this pasuk in halacha. And that is, the Gemara discusses when a person can insert their own prayers into the Amidah. What's the best time to do it? Rabbi Eliezer Omer Shol Adam Tzracha V'chak Hitpalel. He says first the person should ask for their needs in their own language, and then they should daven right after they finish doing that. That should start with. Start with your own petition, make up your own words, and then you can say that the boilerplate, the template of the Shemona Esrei. Okay, the Gemara goes on and quotes from the pasuk in Tehilim 102, another beautiful chapter, which I didn't send out as one of the 8 chapters because just it's longer, and we'll get to it perhaps sometime. It's a prayer for the impoverished individual who will swoon, will wrap themselves, and before Hashem, they'll pour out their speech. And what is sicha? Sicha, conversation, speech, means tefillah. How do we know? Yitzchak Avinu. Everybody knows that source, I'm sure, right? That there's no such thing as speech when we say it in this context, having to do with the world of tefillah, other than the speech of prayer. Yitzchak went out to the field to daven to Hashem. Rabbi Yeshua disagrees. Rabbi Yeshua says to Rabbi Eliezer, with respect, no, yitpalel, v'achar kach yishal tzrachav. First, the individual needs to daven, then they should ask for what they want. Then comes the petition. Shenamar, how do we know? Eshpoch lefanav sichi, tzarati lefanav agid. I will pour out speech before him, and then my distress will I declare before him. So the speech, my speech, is the speech of the Jewish people. It's that which is made by Chazal. Once I have poured that out, and pouring it out means the way you pour it out. It's to say the words with kavana. Then, then I can articulate with my words what my pain, my personal pain, might be on my level, and as an individual speaking directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara then says, wait a minute, what's Rabbi Eliezer going to do with that? Well, Rabbi Eliezer, don't you see the Sefer Tehilim says, Eshpoch lefanav sichi? So, of course, Shemoneh Esrei should come before your personal petition. Rabbi Eliezer says, no. Eshpoch lefanav sichi, bisman shetzarati lefanav agid. I have to pour out my speech before Hashem at the time that I have already declared what my distress is, what my pain and suffering is before Hashem. The Gemara goes back to Rabbi Yeshua, and they say, okay, Rabbi Yeshua also, you have to deal with the fact that that Sefer Tehilim says, Tefila le'anichi ya'atov, is a prayer of the afflicted or impoverished man, impoverished in the spiritual sense, when he swoons before Hashem. And that's when he pours out his speech. That implies a person should first have their personal petition, their personal supplication, and only after should they say the words of the Shemoneh Esrei. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, I disagree. I think we have to learn how to daven. Our model always is Moshe Rabbeinu. And Rabbi Eliezer says, we're not going to learn it from Moshe Rabbeinu. What is this learning from Moshe Rabbeinu and not learning from Moshe Rabbeinu? So the issue is as follows. I'm sorry, I skipped a piece. After the Gemara says, Rabbi Yeshua, you have to deal with this 102. So Rabbi Yeshua says, first he says, when is it tefillah ani? When is the right time for a prayer of the afflicted? That you should have the petition for your own personal issues. Once you've already said, Bisman lifnei Hashem yishpoch sicho. Once you've already poured out your heart. So they're basically arguing about the sequence. What comes first? Me personally or the Amida and then my personal issues. And the Gemara goes on and discusses, and I gave you already the punchline. Rabbi Simloi teaches, La'olim yisader adam shivcho shel makom. First, the person has to praise Hashem. Then they can daven. Davening in the sense of asking for things, but asking for things in the manner of the boilerplate prayer, the tefillah, that's the matbeah shel tefillah that was minted for us by the Chachamim. How do we know? In Parshat Ve'et Chanan, when Moshe Rabbeinu could have a vision of what was going to be in Eretz Yisrael, but was not going to be zocheh to see it, unfortunately, he tried one last time to plead for his life to be able to get into Eretz Yisrael. Hashem Elokim, atachilot lahor avdecha. Hashem God, you have began to show your servant at Gadlecha, at Chazlecha, Vedcha Chazaka, etc., your greatness and your strong hand, right? Who's a God in heaven, Asher Mikel B'Shamayim V'Aretz, Asher Yasech Ma'asecha V'Chik V'Rotecha. And then he said, after he talked about God's greatness, then he asked her what he wanted to ask for. And so what ends up happening here is Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer are arguing back and forth about whether we follow Moshe Rabbeinu as the template for when we daven an individual level. The psak, of course, is in the end the Gemara basically says, well, we actually integrate the two. It need not be that first we're going to say all of the Shemoneh Esrei, and then when we're done, then we'll add in our own piece. But rather, the halacha seems to fall in the direction of, at least that's the way the Gemara writes it, is that a person can ask for their needs inside Shomea Tefillah. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shilat, in the name of Rav, that even though it says that you can ask for what you need inside the brach of Shomea Tefillah, and we have that in our Siddur after the words, there's a pause. In the article said there's little circles there, so there's an asterisk. Insert your words there. This, in the name of Rav, they said, if you want to say any words that are pertinent to any other bracha, just say them in that bracha right before you say the words Baruch Atah Hashem in that bracha. Now, personally, I've not really ever done that, but I have on certain occasions of great pain. I've actually inserted words of my own, speaking personally now, into Shomea Tefillah. That's what's codified in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Yud Tet or Achaim Kuf Yud Tet, and I would urge each of us now more than ever to do that. The Gemara does go on to say, to give us examples. Rabbi Chia Bar Ashi says in the name of Rav, that even though they said you can ask in Shomea Tefillah, if you have a chola in your house, so then you say in Birkat Cholim. If you have a tzorach for Parnasa, say it in Birkat Hashanim. Right? So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, however, has the last word. And I want to conclude the Gemara by teaching this. I hope you followed all the back and forth I'll summarize in a moment. But here's what Shubin Levi says. Afal pi she'amru shoel adam tzracha b'shmei tefila. Even though we say that a person can ask for their needs in Shomei Tefillah, it's like catch-all, it's the basket for all of the requests that you want to make, general bracha. But if you wait till after your Amida, meaning if you wait till the end of Shemona Esrei, after Mavarchat Am Yisrael b'Shalom, and before you say in Elokai Netzor the words Yul Ratzon Imre Fivi Hagion Lebi Lefanach Hashem Tzvi V'Goli, before that pasuk, you say any words you want. You could make that your Seder Yom HaKippurim. Daven as long as you want. It could be as long as you want. You could say whatever you want. This is ultimately, in the halacha, what most people, most of the latter-day poskim, say is probably the best thing to do. For many of us now, it feels very much like a personal Yom Kippur, an ongoing Yom Kippur. And I have more thoughts about that, not for this morning. I'm going to close this year in about 3 minutes. But the idea of this notion is embedded here. And it's actually the notion of Kol el Hashem ezak, Kol el Hashem et chanan, eshpoch lefanav sichi, tzarati lefanav agid. And even though in the end the halacha doesn't follow Rabbi Yeshua, who advanced this pasuk, the fact is that it sort of does, in as much as we don't just start with our personal needs. We start with the sense that we're in the context of the Amida Lifnei Hashem, standing before Hashem, of the Tefila that Chachamenu Zichronim Livracha, the Anshe Knesset Gdola, were metaken, and then we pour out our own personal words in that context. The last thing for today. I can't explain all of the different psukim, but you can read it, obviously. The sense of being alone and turned inward to oneself. Pasuk Daled, Bitatef alai ruchi, v'tayet da'aten utivati b'roch zu aleich tamnu fachli. When I'm turned inward on myself in a certain way. You know my path. Hashem, you're the one who knows what my path forward is. I have no idea what's coming. As I wrote to you just the other day on Sunday, we don't know what the road ahead brings. It's totally murky. It's foggy. The truth is we always live that way. We're just less conscious of it. Now we're living with a heightened sense of it. And to know that is to understand the notion that one feels that there are traps everywhere. When my soul is just literally like falling in within me, that I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm at the end. I have no koach left, and my soul is turned inward. You still know that there is whatever the path is going to be for me, and I feel like there are others who have hidden a trap for me. Habet yamin urei ve'enli makir avad manos mimeni in duration nafshi. These are very powerful words. He says, I look to my right side, which is always associated with the side of chesed. I'm looking for other people's chesed. I'm looking for chesed also from Hashem, but there's no one that seems to know me. No one recognizes me. I'm very much feeling alone. And there's no human being, in duration nafshi, who's seeking my welfare. And therefore, he returns to the same expression, Za'akti elecha Hashem amarti, ata machsi be'eretz hachayim. I called out to you, meaning I cried out to you, and I said, you are my shelter now. You are the one who is going to protect me. And you're my portion in the land of the living. Medrash Rabbah says that when Hashem said to Yaakov, Shuv el eretz avotecha muladatcha, in Parshat Vayetze, Hashem tells Yaakov, go back to the place where you came, to the land of your forefathers and to your birthplace. It says the Medrash, Za'akti elech Hashem amarti atamachsi chelki be'eretz achayim. And among the different things that are described here, what is chelki be'eretz achayim? That's the Eretz Shemeitah Chayim Tchila Limot HaMashiach. The land where Tchiyat HaMeitim will begin at the time of the arrival of Mashiach Tzidkenu, whether exactly the moment of the arrival of Mashiach Tzidkenu, some Rishonim understand it's a little way after the time of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Even in the face of death, we still speak about a time, in a place, called the Eretz HaChayim. Reish Lakish says, in the name of Bar Kapara, Maiti Lamehacha, it's learned from the idea of Notein Neshama La'am Aleha, V'ruach L'holchim Ba, Hashem will give a soul, a spirit to the land, to the nation that is upon it, and a spirit to those who walk within it. Amar le'Hakadosh Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem said to Yaakov, Ata amarti chelki be'eretz hachayim. You're the one who said that I, Hashem, am your portion, the land of the living. Shuv al eretz avotecha. Go back to the land of your fathers, of your parents. Avicha mitzapeh lecha. Imcha, imecha mitzapeh lecha. Mitzapah lecha. Ani ve'atzmi mitzapeh lecha. Yaakov said, Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're calling it the Eretz HaChayim, that I'm your portion, the Eretz HaChayim. Your father's waiting for you there. Your mother is waiting for you there. And I am waiting for you there. The neshamas of all of Klal Yisrael that have left the world are those which are gathered in Shemayim and connected to the Eretz HaChaim, whose physical expression is Eretz Yisrael and Medinat Yisrael. And even as we're davening here and for the whole world, it is crucial, absolutely crucial, that we daven so hard for Medinat Yisrael. Finally, that pasuk, I feel even overwhelmed by the enemies that pursue me. Here in this case, we can understand it in the light of the machla and the magefa that is making its way around the globe. Here, my Rina really usually sounds like it means a song, but not always. In this context, it actually means a cry or a wail in the middle of the night. Kumi roni balayla roch ashmurot means to wail in the middle of the night, which is a pasuk from Eicha. So too here. Hashem, listen to what I'm saying. I've become very, very low. And save me from these pursuers. They seem to overwhelm me. And then that final pasuk, back referencing Noach, ish tzaddik, tamim haya bedorotav et ha'elokim hitalech Noach. Whatever happened, Noach, who was a great tzaddik in his generation, and according to some, for all generations, knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the one who had saved him through a teva, and was ultimately the one who released him from that teva. And so may it be for us. Dear friends, I wish everyone great chizuk throughout the day. Those who are forced to go to work and those who are doing work from home, please to look in on your neighbors and your friends, to call them and to speak to them and to try as much as we can to daven now. Even though we say that we can't have minyan in a physical sense, Tefila is a mitzvah d'oraita according to the Rambam. All the time, according to the Ramban, it's a mitzvah d'oraita at time of 8 tzara. And this is certainly an 8 tzara, a time of distress. But we will get through this. Ani mamin be'emunah shlema. We will get through this. But we do need to do our part now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I believe, is charging us with this mission, and I believe we are well up to the task. I wish everyone a good day and hope to be in touch a little later with some more Divrei Chizuk.